What is the worst reason to have a baby? Why? Post number 1. Evie Halborough says, to save the relationship. It never works. It just drags an innocent baby into a miserable situation. Call Me Vicious replied, this is more common than people think. I have to wonder if anyone, anywhere, ever has actually improved a relationship by having a child. I'm sure some have managed to extend the life of a troubled relationship by adding a baby to the mix, but improving the relationship, making it a relationship worth staying in, I don't see that happening. Well, it would have helped Henry VIII. Number 2. Vague Jerry 1704 says, it's a vicious biological competition of a society that taught women they are not complete if they do not become mothers. Original poster replied, I have a cousin who recently graduated medical school. Apparently, her mom said something along the lines of congratulations. Talk to me when you can actually get a man to settle down and start a family with you. I told her that her mom, my aunt through marriage, sounds unbalanced, but she just said that's the way she was raised. She doesn't know any better. She says that, but you can tell it really bothers her. She recently reconnected with the jackass she dumped last year for cheating on her. It's depressing all the way around. Number 3. Fen Furry says, to have an organ donor for later. Sunshine Daisies 934 replied, unfortunately, there are people out there with children with terminal illnesses that will purposely have more babies to see if they are donor matches for kidneys and bone marrow. I personally think it's abuse. Save your siblings, like in my sister's keeper. Horrible indeed. Number 4. Ninja Mullet says, your parent wanted grandkids. Original poster replied, 30% of my extended family would not exist if people didn't procreate just to get their parents to back off with the grandkid talk. Number 5. Suvan Pan says, to sell them. Daughters are being sold into child marriage and sons are sold for forced child labor in many countries. Hips and Nips 91 replied, in Cambodia in the 80s to the 90s, there was a huge network of adoption mills. These mills worked together with the authorities at the time that resulted in the kidnapping of a huge number of kids. The corruption was exposed all the way to the top. Really horrible. I think this is unfortunately quite prevalent, particularly in a lot of third world countries where it's easy to push over parents, or even first world countries that push over immigrant parents by waiving things like visas and deportation over their heads as threats for non-compliance and buying their silence. Check out a recent movie called Mrs. Chatterjee regarding one of these true stories that happened in Norway. Number 6. Human Independent 999 says, to use it as content on social media. Confif Boss replied, this is my baby, Bajale. She's my favorite now that Roxanne is 2 and throws tantrums that don't fit my aesthetic. Hey guys, trying out something new here to grow the channel by asking. So, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this in the future. Back to the thread. Number 7. No Taylor 5120 says, my dad had an incredibly f***ed up and traumatizing childhood. Instead of dealing with his subsequent mental illness, a person at his church told him to have lots of kids, it will heal your trauma. So, he had 6, and we ended up homeless at certain points and traumatized ourselves. Idiot. Greasy Peter replied, I'm currently dealing with a boss who needs some therapy who's using the church as a mask for real help. Bible study every morning at 6 a.m. for years and the dude still hasn't realized when he's stressed, he lashes out. A therapist will tell you that in one session and give you directly usable advice on how to correct yourself. I'm pretty certain the church just keeps telling him to ask Jesus for help when he has problems. Number 8. Independent Blood 10 says, having a kid for a specific gender. Red Hot Hosfra replied, seriously, as someone who has suffered recurrent pregnancy loss, when I hear parents disappointed about their child's gender, I want to slap them. I just want my future child to be born healthy and alive. Doesn't this just end up creating a resentful environment for the kids whose gender isn't what you desired? I'm sure they'll either try their hardest to live up to your impossible expectations, or they'll resent you for not loving them as much as the desired gender. Either way, no win for any party. Number 9. OK Musician 8345 says, because you find them cute. They aren't a pet. Ben 318 replied, yeah, kids aren't anywhere near as great as pets. It's not their fault, though. Measuring up to my dog is an unenviable task. Plus, it's generally looked down upon to keep them collared and leashed in public. Number 10. Poorly drawn beagle says, to use as a doorstop. Not my real name replied. True, once they can roll over or crawl, they're useless. Number 11. Natty7 says, to be responsible for their disabled sibling in the future. Yes, I had a friend tell me she wanted another child so that her disabled son would have someone when or if she passed away. External Papaya 7436 replied, my parents recently rewrote their trust so that I have to take care of my brother, without consulting me. They never listen when I say I'm not going to do it. Number 12. Bubbly Persona says, I know a woman who was hoping it would give her bigger boobs. Flaky Sandwich 9353 replied, natural-looking saline implants. $3,000 to $5,500. Cost of raising a child until they are 18. $300,000 not taking into account inflation. Yeah, also, the breasts sag after the child stops breastfeeding. Number 13. Lady Lime 23 says, welfare or child support money. Hiding Identity 23 replied, oh, I commented before I read this. I know somebody that admitted to having another kid to get an increase on her food stamps. Pretty sure that in Medicaid was all she received, so I don't know how she thought the extra food stamps were going to make up for all the other costs that come with a child. Sounds pretty wild, but this is very common practice, especially in third world countries. Don't know if they realize it just ends up making a worse off situation for everyone. Number 14. Kooky Bird 8310 says, to have extensions of yourself, someone to take care of you when you're old. The decision to have kids shouldn't be about you. You should embrace the possibility that they are not going to turn out exactly like you because they're their own, fully realized human. Also, bringing another person into this world for a whole lifetime just so that you're not lonely when you're old as fuck. Level Pig 1337 replied, I've always said that having a kid was the most selfless and selfish thing I've ever done. You have to be selfless to raise a kid properly, but having a kid is a purely selfish endeavor. Number 15. Misplaced Spoon says, to distract yourself from a traumatic experience. Robbed at gunpoint. A long time back, a coworker told me this after our conversation about what happened. She said it'd distract me. Then she said I was selfish for telling her that was a horrible idea. Greasy Peter replied, a lot of people use children as a lackluster attempt at avoiding therapy, which is actually exactly when you shouldn't be having a child, surprisingly enough. You want to bring a child into the world under the idea that you'll give them the best you can so they can be happy, not the other way around. Number 16. Established in 99 says, to try and trap a man. I'm an affair baby. My mom was a side chick for 10 plus years to my dad. She met my dad through her best friend, who was my dad's spouse and my step-sibling's mother. Mom got sick of being the side piece and got pregnant intentionally. My dad continued seeing both of them for years after. My sibling's mother and my father broke up. My mom and him dated but ultimately broke up because my mother is f***ing unhinged. Number 17. Curved Basis says, to check if one is infertile or not. A friend's husband actually uses this reasoning. Now he's got 2 kids, different moms. Totally fertile it seems. Sounds like your friend's husband just wanted an excuse to step outside of their marriage. I'd be really surprised if your friend is actually okay with it, unless that's the type of relationship they want. Number 18. Blonde and Nerdy says, because it's expected of you. Because your partner wants one. Because you think it will make you, or your partner or your relationship better. Babies should never come into the world with a job. Number 19. Anonymous Anime 7 says, there are parents that have children just so they can live their childhood dreams through their kids. Women that wanted to be dancers, so they forced their daughters to take dance lessons. Men that wanted to be sports stars, so they constantly trained their children in sports. I've seen this happen with a friend of mine. Another case of breeding resentment through expectations. The friend ended up hating his dad because he just never loved the same things his dad did, no matter how much it was forced onto him in his childhood. Crazy reasons to bring children into this world. Some, if not all of these, are extremely selfish, while others are terribly sad. What do you think? Are there any here that you relate to? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this in the future.